This episode of the Brutally Speaking podcast is brought to you by On Point Pomade. Keep your beard and hair looking on point with their line of pomades and beard oils over at onpointpomade.com. Use our code BSP15 at checkout and get 15% off your total purchase order. So thanks again to On Point Pomade for sponsoring our show. This episode is also sponsored by the Bean Bastard Coffee. Head over to thebeanbastard.com and pick up any one of their delicious hand-roasted coffees. Coffee lovers will also enjoy their hand-cut and handmade espresso candles and soaps as well. If you're in the Buffalo, New York area, head to their store located at 448 Elmwood Avenue. And thanks again to the Bean Bastard for supporting this show. The Speaking podcast is proudly sponsored by Rockabilia.com. With over 500,000 officially licensed items in their online store, you're guaranteed to find something you need. Use our code BRUTALLY and get 10% off your total purchase order. Now on to the show.
People say you have to have a lot of passion for what you're doing. This rings true because it's so hard that if you don't, any rational person would give up. It's really hard. And you have to do it over a sustained period of time. So if you don't love it, and if you're not having fun doing it, you're gonna give
up. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Brutally Speaking podcast. I am your host, John, and this episode's guest is Tanner Wayne of In Flames. This was another one of those where I constantly talk about, things in life happening when they're supposed to, not when you want them to necessarily. And this was one where, I had reached out to Tanner a while ago, actually, sent him a DM on Instagram, and sadly, he just didn't see it. And you'll actually hear a funny story about how there are a lot of DMs that he gets, and it's actually just a lot of like, what are you using to record your videos on Instagram? So he, I guess, really doesn't check them a whole lot, since that's really all the extent of his DMs are, which is fine. A lot of times when I DM people, I just assume, and I think I literally say, like, I assume you're not going to see this, because people are just flooded with whatever in their DMs. So it was one of those things where the band was putting out a new hot sauce. They're getting ready to do this one of two legs for a fall tour. And I saw it as an opportunity to talk to Tanner. And, I kind of do love, as we end up saying, I think in the actual chat too, I love kind of asking for the people who don't do a lot of press for the bands. And I know Tanner said when he got the request from management, he was like, are you sure they want to talk to me? I know Patrick has said the same thing initially when I've, asked to have him on the show. And it's fun because to me, there's something to be said about the people you don't hear from. A lot of times when doing this podcast, you get a lot of people who, do a lot of press, and therefore they're kind of like, okay, here's another round of this thing that we're doing. I'm going to talk about the same thing, probably answer it the same way. And that's not what the show is. The show really is something beyond that kind of superficial level of press. It's getting to know the people that, we think we know, that we love, we love the art or the things that they are and excel in that makes them how we know them. So for me, it's one of those things, getting to talk to Tanner. I know he knows a lot of people that have been on the show. He's close friends with these people. And, as you'll hear us talk, knowing and hearing Porter talk about people is kind of a really interesting barometer for how we know someone's going to be good. And I know I've had people tell me, they're like, oh, I've heard Porter talk about you. And I know that was me smashing my elbow into my desk, by the way. I've had people tell me that, people knew because Porter spoke so highly of me that, then I knew you were going to be a good person. And having Porter speaks so highly of Tanner as a person and as a musician and just all these things, it was the same for me. I knew that once we actually sat down and we got to talk, I knew we were going to get along very well. And this chat was no different. We talk about a lot of interesting, kind of heady things, kind of being unapologetically who you are, into what you're into, exploring more of yourself from a creative standpoint, from a psychological and physiological standpoint as well. And it's one of those where this is where I can just really appreciate this medium for allowing me to connect with people that, you know, are strangers. It's funny when I try to pitch this show to people at times, you know, I had to do it recently in an email, and it was like, you know, the show really isn't an interview. It's really just kind of a connection and a conversation between two strangers, although I know who this person is typically and know a lot about them and they know nothing about me. But it's finding the medium between the two of us and finding common ground and expounding upon that and building a relationship and a connection that hopefully goes beyond just the show. But even if it doesn't, it's great just to have that connection for an hour or however long the episodes are. So, and for that, I'm infinitely appreciative of the time that I get with these people. And so without further ado, this is my conversation with Tanner Wayne of In Flames. I'll talk to you on the other side of it. There is like nothing worse than actually starting off where you're like, oh man, that was like a really fucking great conversation. I'm so glad like that happened. And then you're like, fuck, it didn't record. Or like the one time I've also had the file get corrupted. So you're just like, fuck.
It's like, hey man, can we do that conversation again? And could you say everything you said already, please?
The unfortunate thing is it like when it happened, it couldn't have happened to like the nicest dude and like the best conversation. It was with Shannon from Godsmack.
Oh yeah.
And we talked for like 2 hours and then we weren't even done. We had already planned on doing another one anyway afterward to get to the rest of like the glass jaw talk and stuff like that. And then I just told him, I was like, dude, the file got corrupted. I'm so sorry. He called me like an hour early off record. And then he's like, hey, let's just go. And I was like, all right. 3 hours that we actually did. So I was like, dude, like the nicest fucking guy who not only spent 4 hours with me on the makeup one, but then spent the 2 hours with me the time before. And I was like, man, like what an incredible person and just an amazing drummer on top of that.
Yeah, for sure.
It was so funny though, because it's like, you know, it's kind of funny watching a lot of your Instagram stuff. And really, this is just a conversation more than like an interview of like, so tell me how you got your snare tone.
Yeah.
Kind of stuff, but it's crazy sometimes seeing like your Instagram reels and so forth, and like kind of the throwbacks sometimes you'll throw in your stories and so forth, and you're just like, fuck, I forgot how good like the drumming is on blank song or blank record or whatever. Is it kind of that same way for you sometimes, like that inspires you to want to cover some of these songs, is just like remembering how awesome like these things are and that maybe influenced you as a drummer early on?
Not to discount the perception of what my videos are and what they mean for certain people, because I know certain people are like, oh my god, thank you for posting that because it gave me a throwback vibe. But for me, I'm honestly sitting there about to record, and sometimes I'll have a list of songs and I'll download them all and I'll make sure, okay, this is the list I'm going to do today. And sometimes I'm like, fuck, I have nothing to fucking do. So I look in the app where I get all the audio ready, and those throwback songs, like a lot of the older shit, are ones that I've like either bought or have had on my iTunes for so long that it bypasses the legality of using it on the app. So stuff like Blindside, Circus Survive, all these songs that I've had on my computer for a decade, it bypasses and it lets me use it in the app. It's a weird sitch. I mean, good for them that they've done that on their app, but it's literally just because I look and I go, oh, Blindside, cool, okay. I'll do that because the app lets me use that song. Oh, here's like AFI. So it's literally just that. And it's, for me, it's just, I've done who knows how many videos and I run out of shit to do. And
right
at the end of the day, I'm always listening to older shit, I'm a huge fan of whatever I can find these days that is like new and relevant, but I love listening to older stuff that impacted me, you know.
It's funny you say it like that because I feel like a lot of people, since I do this, assume that I'm just listening to new music all the time. And I was like, man, when I did more of an interview-based thing, the amount of records that I would get and then back catalogs of said bands or whatever, to where I feel like I had to start listening to music to find something completely different that no one has found or found a thing to talk about, ruined fucking music for me, because like I'm not listening to it to have fun and enjoy it. I'm listening to it like work. And it became this thing where I was like, I actually don't really listen to much of anything anymore. More so I'll listen to podcasts. But it's funny because like I think I've hit this age, being almost 40 now, where I've started to sound like my parents and older people, where it's like someone will be like, oh, did you hear this new whatever? And nothing discrediting them, but it'll be like Tala or whatever. And I'll be like, yeah, but it reminds me of insert band that they were inspired by when I was a younger person that first came out. And I was like, I'd rather just go listen to the thing that it was inspired by personally. And I know that makes me sound so old and gatekeepy, but like that's just the reality of where I'm at now.
By the way, have we started or are we just chatting?
Yeah, we started, but I can also cut shit out because we're not like live anywhere.
No, you're good. Honestly, it's the same for me, and I don't think anyone should be. I don't think anyone should feel bad in that regard. You know what I mean? Like, there's certain people that can listen to 10 bands that sound the same, and for me, you know, how old are you?
I'm gonna be 38 in like 3 weeks.
Yeah, so I'm 34. For me, it's like I have, let's put it in a way, like I have only so much in my musical digestion that it's like, yeah, if you show me, I'm not going to name any bands, but like if you show me a band and it sounds like something that I actually love, but it sounds like either the same or it sounds worse, like a watered down version, especially in the heavy music scene, I'm not doing it. Like I just can't digest it. That's all it is for me. I literally can't give it my all in terms of listening to it because I'm not there for it. Whereas like me, I don't listen to. I'm never looking for new metal. I'll give it a shot, but like. I literally listen to R&B. I listen to pop. I listen to indie. For some reason, for me, I mean, I guess it makes sense. Like, I'm going to find new stuff like that affects me because I feel like that musical world is always going to have some sort of uniqueness in comparison to metal. You know what I mean? Like, you only riff so much, like, and then at the same time, there's bands that are trying really hard to be special and unique, and then sometimes I'm turned off by how special and unique they're attempting to sound. Now it sounds like this weird thing that I can't even wrap my head around because it sounds like they're trying so hard to be something special that it's just odd for my ears. But honestly, again, like I'm listening to R&B and pop most of the time.
I mean, it's funny. Like I know I've said this on the show quite a bit, and I've even gotten called out for it at times because between, you know, like I went and saw my friend who was the drummer for Train, and Jewel opened up, and I was like, "This is cool. I've never seen Jewel." I had a fucking blast.
Yeah.
Blues Traveler, Train, Jewel, like all this kind of shit. And you know, like a week later, I went and saw Rod Stewart, and like a lot of people were like, "You seem like you really like metal," and I was like. I mean, I do, but like I also grew up on a completely different era of music. Like, you know, growing up in the 80s, you know, in the mid 80s, I'll say, you know, I was a product of the MTV generation. So it's like at any given point on the hours, it's like I'd get alternative music, I'd get R&B, like Yo MTV Raps, I'd get, you know, metal with Headbangers Ball. So I was introduced to a lot of different shit. And plus, if you even look back at that same era, popular music was a little bit of everything. I mean, anything from your like metal to like Motley Crue and stuff like that to Amy Grant, Mariah Carey, Boys to Men. And, you know, even I grew up in the East Coast originally, and it's like we were a melting pot, you know, being like an hour or so away from Philly. It's like just being over there, like East Coast, like we didn't have the internet. So geographically, like you had very geographical centric music. And it's weird when people kind of get mad when you're like, man, I still felt like when you posted that Aaliyah video a while ago, I was like, oh, yes.
Mhm.
Like, that is, I mean, as you can see the skate decks behind me, like, she is one of my favorite artists, like, hands down. And I think, you know, with her, it was 21 years of her passing, I think about a week ago. And it was one of those things, you know, I was reading a lot about people talking about working with her, what she was like, and all that kind of stuff. And it was really interesting to go back through and think about how she really changed the landscape of popular music for R&B and hip hop, because she crossed over into both. But from a production standpoint, because I don't think people realize that had she not given Missy and Timbaland a leg up on her second record for One in a Million, we may not have the Justin Timberlakes and Nelly Furtados and all the shit that like Timbaland has done. We may not have, you know, some of the stuff that even a producer like Pharrell and the Neptunes, we may not have some of those people because they may not have the artists that would have been inspired from working with Timbaland and working, you know, with Aaliyah's music. So it's crazy to like see how much of a stamp that some of these other genres that metalheads don't want to like or think that is lesser than, but how it has inspired so many fucking people. And I can't help but think, like, as a musician, it's like listening to hip hop beats and R&B beats probably allows you to think differently about how you want to approach a part for a metal band. And maybe your influence for a song that you're doing with In Flames or somebody might be like, yo, I was fucking around with some Otis Redding the other day, and there was this like crazy little fill in this bridge section, and boom, it inspired me to do this. It wasn't listening to Pantera. Sorry.
Honestly, like, well put. I mean, for me, I mean, to start, like, you expressed about what we're exposed to. At the end of the day, and I really appreciate how I was exposed to music, because again, I would wake up, I turn the TV on, and whatever MTV was playing, sometimes it was Atreyu, sometimes it was Bleeding Through, but I loved it all. And I feel for closed-minded music listeners, because you're missing out. It's like only eating cheeseburgers all the time. You realize that there's tacos and sushi down the road, right? Like, why not? Like, I'll never understand closed-minded music listeners. And I tell fans at meet and greets all the time, because they always want to know, what are you listening to? What do you listen to? I am not the classic metalhead in regard. I'm not going to lie to them. I'm going to tell them, yo, this is what I've been listening to. And they look at me like, what the fuck is he talking about? And it's like, bro, I'm not going to fucking lie to you. And I learned from the beginning of my touring career to not have guilty pleasures musically. Like, I when I first started touring, I was in a hardcore band, and all we listened to at night to fall asleep was John Mayer, Coldplay.
That first Coldplay record.
Yeah. Like, there's that 4-part Thrice record was out, so we listened to Thrice Water all the time. And it's like, I feel for the closed-minded listener, because they're kind of brainwashed. And again, if you just like metal and that is all what it is, cool. But the people are like, oh, fuck that band, and you know what, like, fuck that music. Sorry, bro. Like, you're honestly missing out on life. You're missing out on something that you actually could enjoy. So for me, yeah, like, I'd wake up, I was blasting Neptunes in my headphones, 8th grade library, 24/7, and that affected me so much. I grew up loving pop. And again, it's because now, as a music listener, you're far more capable to customize your music experience. For us, we didn't have that. We had what the TV was showing us, and maybe what the front row of Target CDs were. If you went to Target, if you went to Warehouse Music, you went to certain stores to go buy a CD. And I love that, because now, again, you can just listen to metal, and you can say fuck that to everything else. But again, I woke up, there was Missy Elliott, and I was like, oh, that's rad. Oh, and the next video was Hoobastank. I don't know, like, and I love that shit. And again, as I tell my students, my drum students and fans and whatever, it's like, if you're listening to this many genres, your ability as a musician is going to trump anyone who's in the closed-minded, narrow, you know, and headspace. And again, like, our new single after the intro is this drum break, and people are probably like, oh, this is heavy as shit. It's literally like hip-hop. Like, someone could rap over that whole thing, and you know what I mean. And again, like, a lot of us, like Anders, our singer, you know, he we listen to Travis Scott. We listen to tons of shit. And why not, man? Open your ears up.
It's funny. I had the other day the new last week the DJ Khaled record came out, and I always find it interesting because I hate to discredit him because I don't really think he's actually a producer in the sense that everyone thinks he is. I think he hires people to make music, and he's basically a curator of said things. I think that's where he's at in his career. But he always kind of pulls the best out of people with whatever he does, and that the title track God did. Nothing against Rick Ross, nothing against Wayne, but holy shit. 20 plus years of listening to Jay-Z, and he puts out that fucking basically the whole song, and I'm still listening to that one verse just going like, God damn, like that's the crazy thing to me. And like I don't feel like there are a few bands, like actual bands, I feel like that I've been able to grow with. And I've made this comment recently about how, the thing for me that's interesting about listening to Jay-Z when I go back, yes, I do love Reasonable Doubt. I still love Volume 2. I still love The Blueprint. Like those are kind of my three that I go back to. But it's one of those where you can literally hear the evolution of a child basically becoming a man. He doesn't sing or rap about the same shit. Mm-hmm. Like he's grown as an artist from like where he started to where he is. You can literally hear the evolution, see it in all of the ways he's presenting himself, doing something like 444, like that's a man, that's a grown man record with real shit, real insecurities as an adult that you go through. That's not the same shit you're hearing about on Volume 2. And I personally haven't really seen that kind of a growth in hardcore and metal from my standpoint of like where I go. I feel like I've grown with that band. Like I've grown with bands, but I don't feel like there's ever really been that big of a growth where I'm like, I'm growing with this band. We're kind of hitting the same strides as people.
Well, because they probably lose their career if they grew that much. Fans might not be willing to join them on that journey if they grew that much, which again is an ode to the fact of how close-minded the metal community can be at times. Because I agree. Look at Thrice. Look at Random. It's not as much cred, I guess, but like Bring Me the Horizon.
Oh, 100%.
Different realm completely. Not to say cred. I love Bring Me the Horizon. And they're very lucky that the fans stuck around. You know what I mean? Because like bands, I mean, they did it gradually, but
I was gonna say they did it gradually, where a lot of bands don't do that. I think Deftones is one of the other ones that gradually kind of sprinkled the changes, no pun intended, across the discography. So it wasn't as drastic as other bands who were like 100th, where it's like, we're a hardcore band, now we're an indie rock band. One record. I
love 100th.
Great band. Both iterations.
Funny enough, I didn't listen to the first iteration. I don't think even, maybe I've listened to a song, but like when I first toured Europe, every fucking kid was wearing 100th. And I was like, what is this band? They were merch demons. Like, I feel like they probably still are. I bought some of their shit. I mean, it's because I'm a fan, but when out, that's what blew my mind. That's what got me into 100th. And I was like, why is every fucking person wearing 100th? This is trippy. Looked them up. I was like, okay, they're like a hardcore band. That's cool. And then I guess, I don't know how I got exposed to their new wave of stuff, but I've over-listened to every one of their new things, and I'm constantly posting about it. And, sorry, there's a gardener near me.
No, you're good.
I absolutely love, I loved that first record that was kind of like, oh shit, we've changed.
Rare.
I don't remember what the record was. Rare. Yeah. And then they put out another one that's the softer version of that, right?
Yeah. Like ultra rare or something
rare,
like that.
Ultra rare. Oh my God. I love that one even more. Like, incredible. Because again, like, for me, I'm a fucking sensitive guy. I don't care to say it. I'll put it out there. I'm sure we'll talk about mental health at some point. But for me, I'm susceptible to what music does to me when I listen to it. So I can't listen to metal all the time. I'll be an angry, uptight, stressed person. I'm listening to stuff that chills me out. You know what I mean? Like, it's ultra rare is perfect. Put that on. I'm relaxed, chilling. Hence why I listen to what I listen to.
Well, I mean, it's interesting. I I've never really thought of this until just now, but it seems like such a just obvious statement. But I think that's the difference between when I go to like hip hop shows, go to all different kinds of concerts. Metal shows feel like a cathartic release of whatever it is that's going, a push-pull kind of dynamic between the sets and so forth, between band and fan. I don't get that same feeling, that same like, oh, like I've let something out of me, whatever it is. I don't get those same feelings. When I go to a hip-hop show, it's all about a fucking mood. And usually it's enhanced by weed or whatever, or some alcohol, and it's vibing. It's a whole room of people just on a beat, just kind of having a good time. You go to some of these older shows like I've been going to, and it's more of nostalgic and just having a good time, singing along, dancing, and having fun with everybody. And I guess I've never really put that correlation that literally because of the environment that metal is kind of what it is, that those shows even are just very cathartic. Like it's a release, like a huge release, and it's awesome.
Metal shows stress me out, bro. it's so funny that like when I'm on tour, I don't know why, I don't understand it. Like I'm an anxious person, so when it comes to like if I go, like I went to Slipknot recently, and me and my lady were just fucking stressed, like 25,000 people, and you could just again, I'm very susceptible to energy. And you could just feel the fucking, it's almost tension, you know what I mean? Like, at least for me, like, it was just like, fuck, here comes fucking Slipknot. This is intense and heavy. Yeah, in comparison to go seeing, I couldn't tell you the last time I saw some other chill concert or something like that, but you're right. Like, you go to anything else like that, and it's a party, and everyone's there to fucking relax and chill and listen and dance and do whatever. It's definitely a different energy. But for some reason, thankfully, like, when I'm on tour, I'm super comfortable, and I'm super stoked on this next tour because Fit for an Autopsy is one of my favorite bands. So I'll go and listen fucking every night, I'm sure, hopefully, because I'll be warming up and shit. But yeah, definitely different fucking energy for sure. I mean, and again, it's an ode to me expressing how I'm susceptible to energy from music. So obviously, there's going to be a different energy before Fit for an Autopsy goes on compared to before, a hip hop band.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy though, because I've seen different people post, like, it kind of sucks because here in Grand Rapids, like, I feel like, and Michigan kind of in general, I don't feel like a lot of the Midwest, when I go to like Chicago or other places, I don't feel like I see the crazy shows like I see people posting like videos from, because at least I'll say for our city, I feel like we're a very musician heavy city. So you get a lot of the people who are just like, okay, or like playing along with the drummer, playing whatever instrument it is that they play, and so they're just watching. They're watching the musicians play, and it's like, yeah, I kind of wish you'd get a little more into it though, because like, I mean, seeing Dillinger for the first time, I was like, man, this is going to be absolutely batshit insane. It was probably the tamest Dillinger crowd you'll probably have ever seen.
Because it was all these musicians like actually knowing what time signature they're in, and
yeah. So it's like sometimes I feel like I get kind of ruined from an actual concert perspective of going to shows and stuff. And I mean, booking shows at one point in my life has completely ruined that side of it, because all I do is think numbers and guarantees and all that shit, and just kind of like, oh, I'm glad I'm not on the hook for this one.
yeah. I try to, like, because a lot of our shows, some of our shows, it will be a whole crowd of people with their, arms closed or whatever. And sometimes, we'll get back to the green room and we'll immediately be like, oh, this was great. Or like, fuck, what the fuck were they doing? And I constantly normalize it by going, guys, what would you be doing if you went to the show? And we all agree we'd be in the fucking back at the bar, probably like this. So it's like, we go, oh yeah, okay, whatever. But it's tough, we've done headline festivals where it's kind of rough, and like there's no energy retrieval, there's no energy back and forth, and we're like, shit, we drove 2 hours into the forest of Romania and here we are, oh shit, it's day 3 and everyone's hammered and exhausted. So it's like you go, and if you're headlining a festival, it's like you're literally going to expect the crowd to go ape shit. And then when they're not, you're like, oh fuck, I gotta switch it up. Okay, now I actually have to just like enjoy my own moment instead of living through the fans the whole time. It's a trip for sure. I think we played Grand Rapids on this tour, right? Have you seen that?
No, you're not coming through here. The closest you're coming on this next one is Pierre's in Fort Wayne. You came through on the Megadeth tour. You played Van Andel.
What's the venue? The Intersection?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll have to hit you up after. I thought we'd come there.
Nope. Looking right now at the tour with Fit for an Autopsy. Or no, you're playing Pontiac. You're playing the Crowfoot. But
there we go.
Good room. I saw you guys actually a couple years ago when you were with All That Remains for a couple of dates, or vice versa.
Okay, sick. Awesome. I spent a decent amount of time in Michigan.
I will be in Atlanta when you guys are out here. That's one of my like annual things, is going to Atlanta around my birthday. So I will be going and probably drinking way too many grizzlies at the Elmer.
Hell yeah.
That's like my favorite little dive bar out that way.
Awesome.
No, something it's actually, you kind of hit on it a little bit ago, but I think this is kind of a good segue into it. You're as you've been talking, you obviously have said, talking about how you take on a lot of like vibes and what's going on around you. The fact that you're even aware of like having to shift mentally, I'll say, of like if the crowd's maybe not giving you that energy that you're needing to feed off of, and just kind of needing to go somewhere else for your own enjoyment of the set that you've probably played for the millionth time or whatever. How is it for you to deal with like when things are going apeshit, for you maybe not to take that in, even where you're just like, oh shit, everything, oh my god, everyone's going apeshit, like how do you not take that in, especially as the drummer, to like just stay on your beat and stay where you need to be for everyone else?
Yeah, I mean, it's a learning thing for sure. I mean, I guess I went through X amount of years of the crowd not giving a fuck at all. It was maybe not until I played for a mirror that every single night people were absolutely destroying each other during our set. So I guess I do, because it would be way harder if I like started my career as this ultra popular band, and then all of a sudden after I had to adapt to like being the underdog, you know what I mean? But when I was in Chiodos, a lot of our shows were kind of rough, depending on what tour we were on. When I was in that band Underminded, a lot of our shows were pretty tough, and just different mindsets. I've been doing this for 16 years, so just developing different ways to go through it. And it might sound weird to like the person who's never played a show in their life, but it's intense, like going up, playing for an hour and a half. It's not as simple as just playing to excite yourself, especially when you've played that song every night for the past 40 shows. So yeah, it just depends, it's like certain songs are very busy and I'm just very wrapped up in that. Certain songs are, easier for me, and we also fuck with each other a lot. I think that helps, keeps us having fun. I know my singer said that this is the most fun In Flames and most enjoyable In Flames he's ever been a part of. So I know we have a good time on stage. So depending on the show, a lot of the time it could feel like we're at rehearsal, or it could feel like we're in a small room together in front of 1,000 people. So there's definitely like a camaraderie between us, especially if we're kind of having a weird show or whatever. But the goal is to have an experience with the fans and hope that that retrieval and energy shift is happening for the better during that.
It's funny you bring up that this iteration, Andrews feels is, the most enjoyable. I think sometimes, as much as I love bands being together and it's still the same people, I do think sometimes adding people in at different times, hopefully if it's amicable at that best, hopefully, but I think it brings something. I think it kind of keeps things fresh. It keeps things new. Like, for I think Chae is a great example, because I know Porter and the dudes, having been around them the last, handful of touring cycles, since they've come back. I'm not saying like it was like Alex is a bad dude or anything. He's always been cordial and nice to me and everyone around him, but it's just one of those, when you hang out with them now, the vibe is totally fucking different. The energy on stage is 100% different.
Oh yeah.
And it's almost like, it's sometimes like it sucks because it's like you want the band that, like I was saying earlier, the band you grow up with. You want the band because it's like a marriage. You don't want your parents to break up. But unfortunately, once you see how happy everyone kind of is afterward, it's like, I'd much rather have both of you be happy doing whatever it is you need to do now, because then I get to kind of have the best of you, whatever that you is. And to me, I'll definitely say, like, I mean, having seen In Flames for a long time myself over the years, I would agree. I think it seems like the band is having fun, and you can visually see that on the stage. And I don't feel like I can look back at some of the earlier years of me seeing them where I feel like it was work. We're here, we're punching in, we're playing our set.
Yeah, and at least I can tell that. I see bands that they seem disconnected. Random band I'd bring up is, at times I see like Falling in Reverse stuff, and it looks like they have new members every tour, and it just looks like Ronnie doing his thing with some dudes there, and it's like, it doesn't seem like a thing. Yeah. Mind you, I love some of those songs. It is what it is. I'm not hating on anything, but again, it's just an ode to, you can tell that there's that band who goes up and they're like fucking very tight in more ways than one. They're having a great time. And then there's bands that you see that seem like everyone's in their own world. And at least me, I can tell that kind of shit. And it presents a different experience, again, at least for me. But yeah, that's the thing, and oh my God, I'm so stoked for a Chae right now. That last record they put out was incredible, and I drum teched for them for a while, and I've been a friend and a fan for a long time. Yeah, stoked to see what those guys do.
It's kind of crazy to me, at times with you doing as much as you have and teching and playing for as many different bands as you have. I'm kind of surprised in thinking about different situations, even like a Falling in Reverse situation when they did like lost their drummer for a little while. Then I'm kind of surprised that that maybe you're not the first person people would think of to call in a pinch and be like, hey, would you at least fill in for this tour?
Lucky enough for me, I am in however many people's Rolodex, I think that's one of my cat just took my CBD joint in his mouth, the glass tube, not the actual joint, and ran away with it. Let's see here. What's up, guys? What are we doing here? CBD? Shout out Game Up Nutrition. CBD joints, the best in the world. Yeah, I'm super lucky that, I'm very spiritual when it comes to certain things, and everything happens for a reason. The universe has been on my side since day one, because my career has been fucking insane. I'm not living in a mansion, or I'm not driving a Tesla, but in terms of the path that it's gone on, I'm so fucking lucky just to be here still. And I've never been in a band longer than a couple years. So, in the beginning of my career, there was one tour I went on that kind of just like set me up for a lot of shit. I was in Underminded, and it was Underminded, Devil Wears Prada, Scary Kids Scaring Kids, Emery, and Chiodos. I joined right after that. I joined Scary Kids, and then I joined Chiodos after, and then I recently played for Devil Wears Prada. So I've just kept friendships and relationships throughout the 16 years, and because, especially with my videos, people know that I'm still active and still drumming all the time. When the time comes, I'm hit up, which is incredible, very lucky for that. You know, I did Devil Wears Prada last September. Around that time, I was learning Wage Wars set to potentially fill in for them. They were dealing with some stuff. I got hit up by all these bands. I'm very lucky to get those opportunities all the time. And yeah, just I'm very thankful for that kind of shit.
You know, it's funny because as we said earlier about how like you're not necessarily super into, you know, playing metal and all that, even though that's kind of what you play predominantly in. Have you done much work like for live drumming for anybody in the hip hop or pop space or anything?
Yeah, I mean,
or even been asked to go tour with them?
First and foremost, physically, I love playing metal, especially metalcore. If it's just straightforward double kick shit, I get kind of tired. I'm not. In Flames is the hardest band I've ever been in my life, and it's pushing me to be a better drummer every fucking day. But I love physically playing like metalcore and punk. Like that's physically my fucking jam. I love doing that kind of shit. But when in terms of like mentally and like grooving and stuff like that, I love playing other stuff. But yeah, I drummed for Mod Sun. We just did some random shit. Funny enough, when I played like an actual like full show with Mod, it was me on drums, Black Bear, or he goes by Bear now, on bass, and Mod Sun. That was the show. I played for LMFAO for a while. Sky Blue of LMFAO. I was like living at his house and playing in Vegas every weekend, doing all the DJ sets. Going down to South America doing that. I played for Swayze, which I'm embarrassed about, and he's a big piece of shit, so I'll put that out there.
Fair enough.
Yeah, fuck that guy. Yeah, I've done all types of shit like that. Wherever the opportunity is, I'm there for it. And again, thank God I'm into that kind of shit, and thank God I play that kind of stuff all the time. Or if someone offered me something like that and I couldn't do it, you don't want to be that kind of musician, especially if you're in my position to where you're constantly hired to do different things. Like you need your influences to be very vast if you want to have more work. Simple as that.
100%. I think that's kind of the crazy thing at times, like when looking at someone like you, is I feel like you would probably be just a monster fucking player down in like in the Nashville scene, like in a lot of the studio stuff, doing studio work. Just, okay, today I'm doing whatever, like extra percussion for whoever today, and then tomorrow I'm doing a fucking country pop record, the next day I'm doing whoever's here. Like I could see you being just a giant in that kind of a realm, just because of how expansive your vocabulary of drumming can be for people.
I tell people all the time that I wish I had the fucking mental capacity to live in LA, because I did for a while and it fucking destroyed me. It was just like fucking I can't handle that place. Especially being from San Diego, it's like the opposite energy. So
how so? As someone who's only been to LA on a trip but never been anywhere else out that way, I explain what you mean by that, like how it changed you, and then I'll tell you a story about like my experience going out there.
It's so fucking hectic, dude. I mean, I lived there for 2 years when I was doing the LMFAO stuff, and for me at the time I was just bouncing around. I didn't have the luxury of living in San Diego. I had to be in LA to get opportunities, and it did help, and it did put me in different places that I needed to be. But for instance, like going out, I was younger, so we would be going out to clubs and bars and all this shit, and everyone, just the classic rat race of, what do you do, bro? What do you do, bro? Like, everyone's just trying to like get something from each other. The fact that it took an hour for me to drive 6 miles to my brother's house, just everything. It was just too fucking much, too much of a facade. Everything just seemed fake. There wasn't a lot of people that was actually from there. It was just like really odd, just not my vibe. And again, I'll always be bummed that I couldn't adapt to just stay there for fucking ever, because I would be working with more producers, and I'm sure I would be doing more sessions and stuff like that. but wherever I'm happiest, and I'm happiest in San Diego, so it is what it is. But I have been looking into uh, entering Nashville world and trying to do that kind of shit because, yeah, I mean, I'm already playing different styles of music every day, and I would love to have more work in regards to like studio stuff.
It's funny because, like I said, I'm originally from the East Coast, and I realize I don't go back home very often. But when we've, like, my wife and I have traveled, you know, like going to Buffalo, going to, you know, the different pockets of the New York boroughs, going to, you know, Philly, going to like different places out east again, and kind of rediscovering the East Coast as an adult versus being a child. It's funny how I have lived here in Michigan most of my actual life, but there's something about when I go back east or I find people from back east, like I just connect with them so fucking quickly because those are my people. Like, just inherently, there's something about us. And it's funny because when I went out to LA, I felt very not welcomed, but not welcomed because I don't do things the way that are standard out there, I guess. Like, and this is such a weird way of saying it, but like pre-bussing my table because I sat outside to eat somewhere and I went to take care of my shit and go put it away. And I had people going, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, "Nothing's wrong. I'm literally just trying to take care of my own shit because it's my mess. I made it, so I'm going to take care of it." And people are treating you like something's wrong.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm sorry that you're, I guess, upset that I'm trying to help you.
Yeah.
You know, like even going like again, or I know it's not the same, but like I also just didn't like the fact that it's like it doesn't seem like anyone wants to do anything, or like no one even starts working until like noon, 1, 2. Like that's when everyone kind of seemingly starts getting up. And it's like I have a photo when I was on Sunset Strip and I just literally was in the middle of the road at like 10 a.m. and just took a cool photo of like downtown LA or whatever. And I was like, what the fuck is there no one up at 10?
Yo, yeah, that city, especially right there, that shit is asleep at that point. It's very bizarre.
It felt so weird. And I think the other thing that I have a problem, I'll say at least more with California, because when I worked for a screen printing company here that would do stuff for like DGK and Diamond and all them, they would be like, we need final photo approval before you can run the thing. Okay, we're 3 hours behind. Why the fuck are you not awake to tell us that we can run this thing, but then you're going to stress the fuck out and be like, all these 1,500 pieces need to be done today.
Yeah.
Like, then be on the phone and be ready. Why is it that the rest of the world is not working? Like, why aren't we all working together? Why do we work around your schedule?
Yeah, they're on Hollywood schedule. Yeah,
that drove me nuts.
Yeah, I feel that. I was delivering weed for a company, and my shift was 8 p.m. to 4 a.m.
Ugh.
And I delivered to some movie producer at like 3 in the morning, like pretty often. And he was just like, yeah, man, you know, I work with, I don't even remember, Japan or, you know, some country that he had to be up at that point. I was like, this is so fucking weird. You know, it was like, I'd be delivering after midnight. I'd be delivering to like UFC fighters, porn stars, and movie producers. And it was just very fucking bizarre. And I would get home at 4:30, sleep till 2, whatever. It was just like,
it's not a life.
Bizarre, dude. That's not like such a very odd, you know, obviously there's normal things you could be doing in LA, but that was just like one of my LA things I did. It's just like, I can't handle with how, you know, not like you just said, it's not real life. It's just at least not the real life that I'd like to live.
No.
This rapper that I love, he used to come over and smoke with all of us at my brother's place. His name's Skinny. He would sleep all day and be awake all night. And that always like blew my mind. It's such like, I don't know, classic, just an ode to how odd and how like not on track in terms of like normality, in terms of what the rest of the world does, just LA is, you know what I mean? And it is what it is, and again, I always wish I had the mental capacity and patience to go and live up there and do the whole LA drummer studio thing, but it's just not my vibe.
Well, I think something I actually think is better is the fact that you are able to understand that it's not conducive for you. Because,
Yeah.
I mean, think about that. You keep using the phrase that you would have had to have changed to be able to stay there. I don't think a city should change you. I think anywhere you live, if it's really suited for you, it should bring out the best in you as you currently are, not to change who you are to become someone else to fit there. And I think that's what LA, I think that's what a lot of big places like that are, is it's a fake it till you make it kind of thing. And to me, I kind of see through a lot of that shit. I don't have time for fake things, fake people. Like, I have adopted this philosophy this year. Like, I'm just matching energies, but like I'm matching. Typically, it's funny to when people like, I was just telling Andrew from Idola Dance Gavin when we hung out in Detroit. And the place we were at, I was like, he was like, this place is kind of cool. I was like, yeah, last time I was here, we were here to see Being as an Ocean. And some chick here was like being a real bitch, like smacking her credit card on the fucking bar. And the bartender came up to me. He's like, you need something? I was like, I think she needs something before me. I can wait. And he goes, no, that's not how that works. I was like, I mean, I know I work in the bar industry too. So like, I get it, but like, just trying to be nice and, go deal with her. And then like, we just kept ripping jokes basically about her, but like not to her. And at the end of the night, she comes up to me while I'm talking to somebody else. And then she's just like, what's your name? And I was like, oh, it's like John. She goes, oh, well, you seem like a real fucking asshole and I hope you die tonight. And I was like, well, I'm literally across the street. So I just have to walk and then I'm in the hotel. And I was like, did you drive? Are you like your friends? And she goes, yeah. And I go, oh, well, it's snowing real bad. You have a way higher chance of dying tonight. So I fucking hope you die. And you are a real piece of shit. So fuck yourself. And then she got real fucking mad at me. And I'm like, she's like, how the fuck could you say that? You don't even know me. I was like, you literally just walked up to me, don't know me, and said the exact same, like I pulled the like Pee Wee Herman, I'm rubber, you're glue bullshit to you. And now you're fucking upset? No. And it's funny though, like when doing that to people and just matching their energies, like when people are super nice, if you match that, it's crazy how much nicer people will be to you. But then adversely, when people are fucking assholes to you and working door at a bar, I really did it then. And it would be funny to watch people be like, you can't say that. You can't do that. Fuck, I can't. I just did. Why do you think, why do you have the authority or the ability to say shit to me and act like I can't say something back to you? Like, that's fucked up. And I think it's this culture of people just assuming because they can curate, kind of going back full circle moment, people curate the world that they live in, like because they live on the internet. So people are used to being able to mouth off anonymously or whatever and have no retaliation back to them. If I don't like you, I can fucking block you. I can get rid of you, whatever. I can curate the world I live in how I want to live it. And that's not real fucking life. Yeah. And I think it blows people's minds when they get some sort of pushback on that shit. And you're just like, no, not dealing with that.
I feel that.
But, something, you talked about mental health stuff, and that is something, honestly, I'm a huge advocate for. It's kind of funny. One of the, a tour mate you have coming up here soon, I had gone to therapy and I had, I think I was two sessions in, and I had Lee from Born of Osiris on to talk about his instrumental solo record. And it was the first time I didn't prep and write a shitload of questions and basically curate an entire conversation where I'm like not allowing for real organic conversation to happen. Even if you said something that I thought was interesting, I wouldn't even follow it. I'd be like, stick to the script. Here we go. And that was the first time I was like, I'm going to do something that I'm learning in therapy, which is to be present and be where I am 100% and just live in the moment and not overthink something to death. And it was crazy how, I don't know if you want to call it fate, the world, whatever it is you want to put on it. It was crazy how I was kind of instantly rewarded for doing that, because Lee opened up about, his past substance or his like drug or pain pill addiction and so forth. And, talked about, his support group and all that kind of stuff with his friends and family and bandmates and all that. And, how a lot of that actually inspired the record. And he's like, I think I've had one other interview and I just told the person, oh, it's about this, it's whatever, and I just gave him some kind of bullshit answer. It wasn't entirely not true, but it wasn't the truth. He goes, you, through having a conversation with me, we got to the source of what it really was about. But it's because we kind of shared in real shit to get there. And to me, I have since then always been such an advocate for it, because it's crazy in my day-to-day life, like with the things I had to learn in therapy for myself, how it has helped me, and how really in the last year and a half, 2 years of doing this and doing this more honestly and in the moment, I walk away from almost every single conversation I have with someone and I go, I'm fucking glad I do this, even if no one listens to it, because I walk away with one thing typically that I think about for a day, for a week, and just resonate and kind of think about how it's presented, how it applies to my day to day, and it's invaluable. So I always am such a strong proponent of that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm too honest to a fault. You know, sometimes I'm not appreciative of how honest I am, because maybe I should hold some shit back with maybe strangers or something like that. Not to say you're a stranger, but like other humans that I meet in fucking real life. But I would cringe inside if we did this whole interview, did this whole podcast, and I was making up shit, you know, and you asked about what music I listen to, and I listed off 5 metal bands. I'm not that type of dude. I'm far more honest, and again, I'd be cringing inside if I was just like creating this image of myself. But you know, when it comes to mental health, I do have anxiety, and most musicians have anxiety. Touring is intense, you know what I mean, and it's something I struggle with. It's something I'm constantly working on, and it is it is what it is, and I am who I am as a human. And I'm not gonna like hide that. And for me, you know, I get to bond with people over mental health stuff, you know what I mean? And I'm able to help people, and people are able to help me, and that wouldn't happen if I was being dishonest with myself or being dishonest with people. One of my really good friends, Bert from The Used, it's unfortunate that it's our topic of conversation every time we hang, but you know, he's been struggling pretty hard this year, as have I been, and we bond over that shit, and we share, hey, what have you been doing? Oh, this is what I've been doing. And I'll send him audio tracks to meditate to, and he'll send me his new music, and it's just it opens it up as like a community for helping each other, rather than like on some masculine shit or on some more surface level music shit. At the end of the day, you know, the more honest you are, maybe you can get some help. Maybe you can open your mind up to some new shit, as well as, again, helping people or people helping you. And yeah, I'm too honest with myself to lie about who I am. And I will always express how, you know, I struggle at times. I'm a human, you know what I mean? It's the same shit as me telling our fans that I listen to fucking hip hop and R&B all the time. Here's who I am. I don't give a fuck if you accept it or not. It's not really why I'm expressing this to you. You know what I mean? I am an honest person. I'm going to let you know who I am, you know?
I think that's the thing, is I think a lot of people are afraid to be who they are. You know, I was watching with, because my wife likes watching a lot of terrible reality TV, so I'll just kind of pop it in now because I just don't enjoy it. But it was interesting because I think it's Buckhead Shore, I think is what it's called, and one of the characters, I guess, is gay, but he hadn't come out to his parents. And then at one point, the thing that kind of intrigued me was like his mom was like, why on TV? Why did you feel the need to come out on TV? And he goes, because there's so many people living a lie, like, you know, younger kids. There's people who are in their 40s, 50s, 60s with kids, full lives that are all based on not being who they really are, and they're trapped, or they feel trapped. And and I kind of started crying, and then I was just like, that got you? And I was like, that's real. I mean, you don't have to be gay to have that sentiment ring true for everybody, because I'm sure there's a lot of people who feel like they can't be 100% genuinely who they are because of some perceived, and I don't even know what it is. I don't know if it's judgment. I don't know if it's guilt. I don't know if it's shame or whatever, but it's one of those where it's just like, man, it's sad to think that we are in a world where I feel like being my age, I think it would be a lot cooler to be a young person now, because I feel like so many kids are able to be who they want to be.
Yeah.
And like, you can be like, I love metal, I love hip hop, I love whatever. And people will be like, same, me too. Like, you can find your people now a lot faster than I feel like it took me to find my people and feel comfortable in who I am. Like, you know, I remember having a conversation with my dad when he was asking me about like all these tattoos and stuff, and do I ever regret them? Because like now I'm at the point where I just go get weird shit when I'm like, when I travel, I go get a tiny little keepsake piece, like when I go. And he was just like, oh, I wish I could do that. Like, I don't think I can get something that doesn't mean something. I go, it does mean something. It's kind of like a stamp of where I was. It's a keepsake of this memory. Like, some people buy t-shirts or whatever. This is a permanent thing. And I go, you know, honestly, I never felt comfortable in my own skin. I was always tiny. I was born with a cleft lip and palate. I was, you know, told from a very young age by doctors that like, I'm not normal. Here's a graph of normal people. Here's where you fall. You're never going to do these things. And I never felt comfortable in my own skin until I was able to kind of modify it the way I wanted to. And I know this look may not be for everybody, but it's one of the first times I've been like, this is my body, this is my skin, this is how I choose to be, and I feel comfortable in it.
Yeah.
And I was like, it kind of fucking sucks that it, you know, took me until being like 18, 21 to like get there. Yeah. But I think that's the thing where I kind of identify with those same kind of stories, where it's like, I understand what it's like to not feel welcome or not feel wanted for a multitude of reasons. And it fucking sucks. And I don't want anyone to feel that way.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I feel like that's maybe a subconscious reason as to why I'm so honest with fans or people, is that I want to give them their place to be their honest self as well. Life's way too short for you to be closed-minded or you know. And again, I'm not gonna drag anyone to tell me everything about themselves, but I hope I could help and inspire. Look at this psychopath. To be more honest and open. You know what I mean? Like, imagine the way life can open up if you're honest about shit. You know what I mean? And I bond with certain people I never thought I'd bond with in regards to maybe music that we listen to, or maybe mental health stuff or whatever. Random thought, random story. I hung out with Tyler, the Creator, once, and we were talking about the new Weekend record, and he started to make fun of me in front of a ton of people in regards to me saying that one of the songs was kind of jazzy. And as I look back on it now, the Weeknd's never made anything jazzy. I think I meant more maybe like soulful or whatever. Sorry, bro. Like, I didn't, you know, I said the wrong thing. And he immediately like cut me off and made fun of me, and that kind of shit. It's like, man, like, I don't really get that shit. Like, you weren't really giving me a place to feel comfortable in front of all these people. Yeah. But you know, the older you get, the more you realize life is short, and to open yourself up in more ways than one. Be honest with yourself. Be honest with all of it, and it opens up a lot more life than if you're closing yourself off to shit.
I think sometimes I wonder, you know, as I get older, I feel like something I notice a lot of people seemingly being afraid to not know everything.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, that's something too, man. My dad last night was ripping on my girlfriend for not knowing who the B-52s are. And it's like, there's a lot of humans on this planet that don't know certain things. And that's always something. You don't know that band, bro? Dude, yeah. You can't like that one record. You don't know that. Wait, you can't listen to the new stuff. You have to listen. Dude, yeah. I don't know this. It is it's black and white. I do not know it.
Yeah.
You cannot rip on people. That's a classic like music industry thing. Oh, dude. For me, something that'll offend people. I never really got into White Pony. I never really got into the records before. I got into fucking Koi no Yokon and the ones around that time. Yeah. And then I went back, and it's like, there's no blueprint of what you're supposed to do as a human. It doesn't have to be this black and white, fuck you if you didn't do it this way. It's so stupid.
I think that's like the crazy thing. As I get older, I'm embracing not knowing shit, because then, you know, like, A perfect example of this in actual representation of something that happened. So I had the singer of Future Palace, Maria, on a couple of, like, probably about a month ago, but just posted it like the last couple of days. I knew nothing about the band. A lot of times I get emails for bands I've never heard of. I know nothing about. You see these like the press releases, and they're using stupid buzzwords that I'm like, man, you are trying way too fucking hard to sell this thing. Either the music's good or it's not. Like, that's really what it boils down to. But honestly, because this has become more of a conversation, that I feel like I'll talk to anyone, because I have no idea. Like, you might have knowledge on some shit that I don't fucking know. Maybe talking to you will make me think of something, make me learn something completely new. Like,
yeah.
Why would I turn down the opportunity to maybe grow as a person?
Yeah.
And I constantly think about how I see, like I said, sitting at a bar, being a bar person, like door guy, I shut the fuck up. I typically don't talk because I'll just blow my voice out, like trying to shout over all that shit. So I'm sitting and I'm just watching people that are older. I'm watching young kids. I'm seeing and watching everything.
Yeah.
And it's always weird to me to, like, people will talk about something and you can tell when someone's bullshit. And they're like, oh yeah, I saw that, or I read that, or da 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 da.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I can tell you're bullshit. And I'm just like, just say you didn't. Like, it's okay. Yeah. You are a one fucking person. You can't literally know everything. It's okay to say, I don't know that. I didn't watch that. I didn't listen to that. It's okay.
Yeah.
Like,
have you, that constantly happens when we're in the bus and we're talking about movies or something. I haven't seen The Godfather. I haven't seen a lot of classics, and you could just see, like, especially like our older text or something. What? You haven't fucking seen that? No. And you haven't seen a lot of old movies that I've seen too. And it's like, it doesn't need to be like that, you know, like, let's watch it now together, you know, like it, I always think that's a hilarious thing. But maybe it's just we're pre-programmed to do that kind of shit. You haven't done that. You haven't seen that. Cause sometimes people get embarrassed when you put them on the spot like that to that extent. It's like, you don't know that, you haven't seen that. It's just like, no, dude. Like, and I sometimes tell people, I'm jealous that you haven't seen that or heard that, because now you get to experience for the first time. And I would love to experience certain things for the first time.
It's funny. I just had that with Porter probably about like 2 months ago. Randomly, somehow, we were talking about A Perfect Circle, and he's like, oh, I never listened to that. I was like, what? I was like, oh my God. Like, I'm not a big fan, really. 13th Step, I'm kind of on. It's really that first record. I was like, please do yourself a favor. Like, go listen to it. Like, it is a whole fucking vibe, that whole record, start to finish. And then when I met up with the tour, the Nothing More tour, he was like, so I've been listening to Merit at Alms. And I'm like, it's a real motherfucker, isn't it? It's so good. He's like, I can't believe I never listened to this. And I was like, you're never too late, man. It's always there waiting for you. But It was just crazy, like, to think about shit like that. Like, I had someone, because I've never seen Goonies, and everyone's like, what? You never saw Goonies? Oh my God, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, they're like, you need to see it. And I was like, why? So it can remind me of my childhood memories of watching this movie I don't have? Yeah, I'm sure it literally is not going to do anything for me as an almost 40-year-old adult watching a child's movie from the 80s. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, it won't. I know it will have nothing for me, so I choose not to watch it.
Yeah, like, I am obsessed with Harry Potter, and
they were on yesterday, and I've never seen them.
It was on at the bar because I grew up with it, and I read the books, and then I grew up, you know, and I think maybe it was my buddy Elliot the other day. His mom was like, oh, have you ever seen Harry Potter? He's like, no, you know. And I tell everybody, it's kind of hard to get into now. Like, the first fucking movie is a Disney movie, and then maybe the second one's Disney too, but like, it's not something easy to get into. And like, by the time you get to the last couple movies, it's very adult, and anyone our age could get into that kind of shit. But I would never be like, you've never fucking seen that. You haven't seen it. It is what it is. And I fucking understand how maybe you haven't seen it or watched it, because it's hard to get into now as an adult.
I think also it's, I mean, this is TMI to a degree, but it was the weird entryway I got into it. I literally was at an 80s night that they used to have back here on Wednesdays. And this dude was like all over this chick. Her body language was very much like not having it. And I just remember like talking to her at the bar, and she was like complaining about this dude. She's like, oh, he's a creepy, won't leave me alone. I was like, oh, well, I mean, best of luck to you, I guess. I don't know what to do. And then I remember we were dancing, and that dude was just being a creep, and I just like, she kind of shot me this like look like, oh. And then I just was like, and this is so out of like the ordinary, but it kind of again goes back to me talking about when I moved here, I became me. I wasn't like the friend of a friend of a friend's kind of person. I was who I am, and people knew me as me. So I really kind of blossomed when I moved here. And I remember just kind of looking at her, and I just whispered in her, I go, do you trust me? And she goes, what do you mean? And I go, do you trust me? And she goes, sure. And then I just like kissed her real quick. Dude fucked off as soon as he left. I was like, cool, all right, have a good night now. And she was just like, really? You're just gonna make out with me and then just leave me alone? And I was like, yeah. That's why, I basically said, do you trust me? Because like, I'm not gonna be a creepy weird dude and just be like, all right, well, now we're making out, and now you're mine. So like, same thing though. She went to leave. Dude was waiting for her. So then she like kind of, as I was walking out, she grabbed my arm, walked out with me, and then once we got past a certain point, I was like, all right, well, have a good night. Maybe I'll see you next week. And she was like, you're not gonna walk me home? And I was like, I guess. Again, this is like the shy me coming out where I'm like, girls don't like me. So go home or to her place. And then she was like, oh, don't make fun of my movies. Cause I was looking at her movie collection, which was like all 7 movies she had, and like 4 or 5 were Harry Potter movies. And I just remember her telling me, she was like, don't make fun of me for the Harry Potter movies. I was like, why? Like, you like what you like. There's no guilty pleasures. Like if you find something in it, cool. And then she goes, you ever seen them? And I go, no. And then so she proceeds to tell me to put on the newest one, which was whatever part in the movie, there's a part 2. So it literally picks up wherever the last movie was. They're like fighting something. I don't know what the fuck it was. And I remember she's trying to explain to me the last 3 or 4 movies worth of plot. And I'm sitting here in my head going like, how dumb. Like, why wouldn't you just be like, let's start at the first one and then like go from there? And then I just remember being like, tell you what, if this is like meant to be or something like that, how about we just watch the other ones? Like, just I'll watch this one. Like, I it's fine. I don't know what's going on. Like, I'll figure out what I can. But like, I don't need you talking the whole fucking movie.
Oh my god, yeah. I would never, if I had to, for the 2.5 hour, 3 hour movie, I'm having to describe 7 movies to you during it. That's not gonna fly.
But that was an interesting night. And I just remember just like laughing. I was like, laughing to myself, and she's like, oh, grab that one. And I was like, who the fuck starts like after you like literally telling someone, like, it'd be like going to The Godfather and be like, all right, well, look, have you seen The Godfather? No. Okay, grab Godfather 3. Let's start there. And you're like, what the who does that?
That's funny though, because she's probably like, she was already embarrassed, so she's not going to show you the Disney one first. She's going to show you the brutal epic one first, as if you're going to somehow understand what the fuck's going on.
Well, and then it's like last night it was on at the bar, and I was like, the dude from like I knew his real name, but I was like, dude from Twilight's in this movie? And they're like, oh, only for this one. And then he dies. And I was like,
oh, yeah.
I was like, weird. I didn't know he was in this. And they're like, yeah. And I was like, huh, weird. And then they're like, does it make you want to watch it? And I was like, nope, 100%. Still doesn't really make me want to watch this.
Yeah, it's like, it is what it is. Like, I'm not embarrassed that, my fucking whole right arm is Harry Potter. And like, the only people that come up to me and talk to me about it are huge Harry Potter fans. So it's like, it's not like I have some huge Harry Potter portrait and this thing that like makes me stand out as some, it's kind of like a secretive sleeve I have. And again, the only people that come up to me and talk to me are people who are really interested in it. So we have good combos. But
I think it's funny because I haven't really felt the fandom of being a fan of something like that in a while. Like E-Tid broke up, so like that was it for me. Like, and that was really tough because I remember going to the Christmas shows, and I remember telling my wife after Ice-T played, and I was like, let's just go after Ice-T set. And she goes, why? You don't want to see E-Tid? And I was like, I already know it's done. Like, all of the close friends I know that know them are like, this is it. And the first night was kind of weird, and I was like, I don't want bad memories of my favorite band. I don't want awkward memories. I was like, I'd rather
especially that, right? Yeah.
I'd rather it be, when they played the Pyramid Scheme and it was like fun and it seemed like, they're celebrating this awesome fucking record and they're, we're the second date on the tour. Like, I want those memories. But it was interesting. Played? Yeah, he was the direct support for them. The second
was night. It Body Count or Ice-T?
Ice-T all rap set.
Wow, sick.
It was so awesome. That's like the second time I've seen him do a rap set in the last probably 5 or 6 years.
Sick.
But it was really funny too because like you had people shouting, like people behind me being like, "Oh, he's gonna play Body Count shit." I was like, "100% he's not."
No,
And like people,
no.
and it was funny though because you can tell like people don't know that shit. Like they don't know Colors, 6 a.m. They don't, shit like that. Like Get Butt Naked and Fuck. Like they don't know any of these songs, and I'm just like, it's weird to see like a full on like ETID kind of crowd. Just kind of like some people knew some of it, but like you could just tell like people didn't know that side of Ice, and it's funny to see it like firsthand where you're just like. Closed-minded people, man. Maybe this will make you be like, yo, this is dope. I'm going to go check out some of his rap shit. I didn't even know he rapped.
Yeah, I probably just know his hits. I don't really know a lot of Ice-T. I toured with Body Count one summer. What was it? Like a Mayhem Fest. We did Body Count. That was or I was with Die Artist Murder, but that was super fucking sick.
I still haven't seen Body Count yet, sadly.
I watched Cannibal Corpse with Ice-T almost every day. That was awesome. Something I'll always fucking remember. It was just me, him, maybe Coco would come up, and we just watch. He was obsessed with Cannibal Corpse, and we just watched that every day, and they were fucking really fucking chill. Yeah, that ETID shit was awkward, huh? I stopped being. I didn't stop being a fan, but I kind of just like lost touch with it after. Probably after Gutter Phenomenon.
Oh, okay.
No, I don't even think I got. Maybe I got the parts of Big Dirty, but like, again, it's nothing against anyone. It's just just like a lot of music listeners, I just didn't follow along, and yeah.
I'd be interested to see. I'd be interested to see, since you talk about how you're naturally kind of very empathic to things. I'd be interested to see how you react to listening to Low Teens and this last record specifically.
Funny enough, because I'll give a spin to a lot of records. I have listened. I love the new record, especially because I'm a huge fan of Will Putney. I have listened to the song with Andy from Manchester Orchestra.
Thing with Feathers.
Probably 40 fucking times. Like. But maybe it's
that's not them. It's like it almost is like a Radiohead song from like OK Computer
maybe
era.
It's because it's not necessarily a classic Every Time I Die song, but I've listened to the song fucking infinity times. I absolutely fucking love it, and the production on that record is fucking incredible. So I've listened to that a decent amount of times, and yeah, I fucking absolutely love that fucking song. But again, yeah, I don't know when it comes to like music, if a lot of it doesn't have like a pop sensibility of like catchiness, because death metal can even be catchy. It just doesn't stick to my brain. It doesn't I won't remember it after. And I think some of Every Time I Die, at least for me, I kind of just got lost with it. There's so much going on, and I wasn't able to remember what I just listened to. And again, that's just me as a music listener. But I appreciate the shit out of it. I've seen them a million times. I saw them back in the day. I probably saw them 2003 and 4, and that era of music was insane. Every single day I'd wake up and that music video with the lion in the beginning, or
Kill
you know what
music.
I mean? Yeah, that was on every fucking day, and I loved that whole entire record. So again, what they did for music and absolutely incredible.
Yeah, 100%. But it's funny. I realize like I don't really have the fandom of another band. Like there's really not another band that is like, well, now it's this band that I'm like, so passionate about, except for now that Villa from him is just put out a new single today for his record. It's coming out next year. And him was like one of my biggest bands that I love, but like they broke up. So like most of like my big bands are gone. Yeah. And it was funny. I was texting I was messaging Amy this morning when she had put out the press release, and I was like, it's weird to still have this sense of like fandom that has kind of long been gone for me for a while. Like I said earlier, like I just kind of doing this has kind of taken a lot of it out for me. And that's still one where like, I still love nerding out about him records. Like, James from 18 Visions and I will like talk about like, this is my new favorite him record right now. It's Deep Shadows. Yeah, I think that's the best record. Yeah. And then it'll be like a couple of weeks later, you might be like, man, I don't know, Dark Light though. Yeah, man, Dark Light's really fun. And then you're just like, I mean, let's be honest, all the records are really great for their own reasons. They're different. But it's funny that like seeing that email, like I remember waking up the day that it was announced that he had a new record. He was going with a solo record. A tour was getting announced. I didn't even see that it wasn't coming out until the next year. I texted him. I was like, please, for the love of God, like, I don't know what I got to do to get him on the show, but like, I was so fucking close when he put out this like EP with his old management, I guess, or something. And then the pandemic happened like 2 weeks later when we were supposed to do it. So then obviously that's it. Ain't happening. I was like, I don't have many people that I'm like, that's a bucket list person for me. I've never met the dude, never talked to him, nothing. But like, that's one where I'm going to be like, it needs to happen. But I also am interested to see like, will I be able to kind of tame it down and just be like, all right, you're just a dude. Like, let's just talk.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Cause like, I don't have that sense of fandom really anymore to any bands really. Cause they're all gone.
I feel bad for you because that type of fandom is like what fuels me as a human, like in any aspect, right? Food, movies, TV, music. And that's something I'm always chasing. Because the feeling of that for me is absolutely incredible. Like, I am not ashamed to say that The Weeknd is one of my favorite artists, and I've been listening to him since he first came out. So when he puts out new shit, I'm like so fucking hyped, even though I haven't really been loving the progression. But new Stranger Things.
Haven't watched that yet. I'm waiting for that to be completely done so I can then just watch it all.
Oh my God. Wait, you haven't watched any of it?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Yeah, I know a lot of
people. I mean, I know it's going to be right in my wheelhouse because and that was the thing is when it first came out, and I knew because they had said all along, this is going to be a limited series. We're going to do like 4 seasons and then we're done.
Yeah.
So knowing that, I was like, because I'm not really good at waiting for shit anymore just because of the nature of what we do. Yeah. But I also, because my wife and I's taste in things is so different, like that's going to be a show where I'm like I just plowed through Atlanta like in one day, the new season, because I was waiting for it.
I did too, yeah.
But that was the thing my wife didn't want to watch. So like while she was watching whatever she was watching, I was like, okay, now I have like time to fill with this one show.
Yeah.
So Stranger Things is going to be that for me, probably like when we travel, like when I go on flights, that's when I catch up on movies, shows, stuff like that. So like that's next in my queue of something that'll take a little bit longer that I can kind of enjoy, but I don't get to consume media as much or as fast as other people. So a lot of times when I see shit like that and see people talking about something, I'm just like, yep, cool. I haven't watched any of it. And then the people just go, oh, and then they stop, thankfully. So I'm not really having anything spoiled.
Yeah.
But the show, from everything I see, all the people talking about it, it looks like it's going to be like why I enjoy the Goldbergs. Because it's like, that was my childhood time. And they seem to do a very good job of recreating sort of nostalgia of what, like the Ghostbusters, when that was the big thing from season 2. I was like, oh, I remember that. I had a ghost like proton pack. I did all that shit.
Yeah.
So it's like, there's moments like that where it's like, I can already see where I'm going to fall in line with the characters and be like, oh my God, this is like hitting all of my nostalgia of like my childhood in this show with horror, which is something I love too.
Yeah, you're gonna have several hours of entertainment in that regard. Yeah, I love that feeling of, oh my God, a new fucking season came out. Oh my God, the part 3 came out. Oh, this new movie came out. I absolutely love that shit, and it's one of my favorite things in the world. So I'm constantly chasing that kind of feeling, you know.
I think maybe like, because I kind of speak into like a weird aptitude type thing. A long time ago, I remember in my psychology class in high school, we were given a piece of cake and we all had to wait to eat it. And then the teacher was like, okay, go ahead and eat it. Take the first bite. Just take one though. And then after we took a bite, the person, like our teacher, was like, who started with the icing? Who started at the middle? Who started here? Like picking apart how we ate the cake.
Wow.
And he goes, do you know how you're eating cake? What it tells me about you. And it was funny because I always save the icing for last. So like I'll literally eat all the cake and leave all of the icing, and that's the last thing I eat. And I was the only one that did that. And everyone kind of made fun of me at first. And then he's like, that basically is someone who waits for the good stuff, saves it for last. You work you earn your way to the good stuff.
Yep.
Most everyone else dives right into the icing first, maybe eats the rest of the cake later, or if they even finish a full piece. And then I thought about it, and I've always kind of feel like that's such an interesting way to look at life. Like, how do you eat your cake? Do you eat the icing first? You're probably just rushing to the good shit and not like letting it build up and enjoying it last. And to me, I feel like I consume and do a lot of things from that mindset.
Yeah. Maybe you should eat that cake, bro. Maybe you should dive into the...
How do you eat your cake?
I probably go all of everything, the full cake. Like, for instance, like, the only comparison I can think of is like a record comes out, and I only have Apple Music. It shows you, it puts a little asterisk on, I guess, like what
the most liked songs?
The most liked songs, yeah, or something like that. I will listen to song 1. Let's fucking go. Let's go on the journey. Let's whatever. Yeah, I don't know why. Maybe it's because I get a bigger feeling if I get to that instead of go straight to. But every human's different. That's a deep psychological. That should have been psych class, not what class did you say it was?
Psychology.
Oh,
yep.
Got you. Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
It's funny though, because same with records. Like I used to listen to a half of a record, and I'd save the other half, so then I would still have the newness feeling of a record.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were like, "What?" And I go, "Yeah, like I bought a record, and I only listened to the first half to get really like understanding the first half, and then I have a whole nother half of a record to go, and it's new, and I get to experience that record." And I don't really do that anymore. I'll kind of do what you're saying, like I'll play it top to bottom. But what's interesting is I've been since then with a lot of records that I've listened to so many times, I've actually been putting them on shuffle. And what's interesting when you do that is sometimes songs you don't like make more sense when they're put somewhere else.
100%.
And then you kind of go, oh, well, the song's actually not bad. Maybe it's just the track listing wasn't ordered very well, and this just kind of was a byproduct. Yeah. But it's crazy how you can kind of rediscover something by taking it in different ways. Like I took a trip to Chicago with my wife a couple weeks ago, and I had some shrooms, and I love shrooms, but I hate eating them. And I very recently found out you can, and I don't know why I never thought to do this, but you can put them in pills. Just crush them up and put them in pills. And I was like, why the fuck did I never ever think to do that? So I've been enjoying microdosing and doing that, but we were in Chicago, and I knew neither of us had to drive. Because we were just taking the trains and all that kind of stuff, and we didn't have very far to go. I remember taking them when we went to before we went to a baseball game, so we're outside, nice. Kind of fall night, and they didn't kick in as fast as I thought they were going to. So I was like, oh fuck, I guess they did, because I'm still figuring out like this is how much what I normally take is in pill form.
Yeah.
How do you kind of take them, and what does it do, and all that kind of stuff. I remember sitting at the bar, and I actually was going to post the video on my socials just real quickly because I think it's funny to be like, then the video is going to be when the shrooms kick in, and you're not where you thought you were going to be when they were going to kick in. But my wife thought I was taking a photo of myself and then like leaned in to like be in it with me. And I was like, well, this will be funny, because she knew I took them. So I hit record, and I was like, shrooms kicked in. And then she just like, looked at me, didn't quite hear what I had said because we're in a bar, and then heard and understood what I said, and then just kind of looks at me, laughed, and then we both just started laughing. And it's one of like my favorite things of our. I think it's so telling of our relationship. Like, it's so weird to say it like that, but it was because I feel like some people probably feel like they have to do something like that and keep it away from their partner because like, oh, you're going to be judgy and weird or whatever. Yeah. And mine, here it is. It's just the two of us. We took a weekend for the two of us, and it's just us hanging out like we always do. And I was just like, and instead of like her being judgmental or shitty or weird, she was just like, oh, that's fun. And then we both just kind of had like shared a moment. And, you know, it was one of those things where I've been wanting to take them since going to therapy and more recently having my cards read for the first time. And I was like, what is actually Craig from what band is he in? Straight from the Path. Posted this on Twitter the other day, and I was like 100% feel this, where he was like, sometimes I think more people need to take shrooms because you should be a passenger in your own life and see what it was like. And I was like, so fucking get it, so profound. That's entirely how I feel about it, because it gets you out of your own way and will help you maybe deal with some bullshit that you just don't want to deal with or think that you have suppressed or whatever. And I realized like in that moment, like with all the therapy and shit, I was I just like looked at my wife and I was like, man, I love our life, and I love that, like, you know, we're each other's best friends, and we do shit. And like, I know I'm on high on shrooms, and this is why I'm like saying this shit, but like also, like, if I don't say it enough, I'm sorry. Maybe I should.
Fuck yeah. Yeah, me and I mean, especially because maybe it's because I live in San Diego. I mean, I'm a huge fan of all the medicinal research going into stuff like that. I do DMT probably once a month, once every other month. I was taking mushrooms pretty regularly with my lady, or I would do them on my own. But it's pretty awesome to go from the stoner I was of smoking all day, every day, to kind of probably like escape. And I thought, you know, that was just how I felt great every fucking day. And I can't handle that anymore now, but I love now being 34 and like being able to use this kind of shit that was taboo and faux pas, and being able to use it for the medicinal, and like spiritual, and just like, you know, like the healthy ways of like using these plants and these things, to get something a lot more out of it than to party.
Yeah. I think that's why I've enjoyed my limited experiences with everything. You know, it's funny. A friend of mine put me in touch with Chris from Poison the Well, because he's like, I think you guys would have a good conversation. Like, if you want to talk to him. I was like, sure. Had no idea where it was going to go, and basically it was us talking about, through various psychedelics, like what we've learned about ourselves and other people in our world, basically.
Yeah.
And I remember posting it and kind of being afraid, because it's like, you know, I mean, not that I give a shit. Like, basically, I work in a bar industry, so not really a big surprise. But that, you know, we do drugs on occasion. But I have such a healthy respect for it, I think, because of being so into music and reading all the cautionary books and shit that basically line my bookshelf, that it's like I've always understood that, like, some drugs are really bad, and if you're using it literally to escape who you are and what you are, and not being comfortable with who you are, and not dealing with any of that shit, it's probably why a lot of those people do those drugs.
Mm-hmm.
If you do more of the psychoactive type stuff, like shrooms and like DMT and acid and stuff like that, like, anytime I've done any of them, I don't do them all the time. So like I said, it's kind of a quality over quantity when I do them. Sure. Yeah. And it's more for kind of just, you know, like I said, with therapy, like, my thing was overthinking things and not being present. And to me, doing those things kind of forces me to be very in the present and in the moment. Yeah. And it's one of those where I'm thankful that I've had those experiences, and getting to at times bond with other people who have done them and kind of learn more about them. And I constantly like tell my wife, I'm like, I wish you would try some of these things and just see what it does for you.
Yeah. Cause
like, I would be interested for you. I know what it does for me, but then, you know, it's like she was saying, she goes, it may not do that for me. And I go, I mean, I guess, but I don't know, you don't know. Like, don't you want to know?
Yeah, I've gone pretty fucking deep on DMT. And as cheesy as it is, especially if you're a metal fan listening to this shit, I mean, it fills you with love. It fills you with gratitude. It fills you, it sheds a lot of bullshit from your stresses and from your conscious. And my lady hasn't gone there yet, and I'm like, you should go there, you know? And it's like, but it's fucking intense too. And like, I get the worry or the fear of going that deep, because it's fucking intense. But you know, you got to let everybody do their thing. And some people aren't ready to dip their whole leg in, and maybe they want to dip their toe in. And I give, you know, I express to people what it does for me, and I give them the platform to fucking do their thing. But yeah, it's nice to have all these studies and kind of just taking away the negative, like, mystique of things like that, and just allowing it to be a betterment of your life instead of some party thing.
I remember a friend of mine that I used to live with here he was big on 4chan and found plant additive from overseas that was basically DMT type like. And it was like 3 different compounds basically, and it was like, you can take all of them individually, you're fine. You can take this one and you're fine. You can mix these, like, it was just like basically like, don't mix A and C ever.
Oh wow.
And but the crazy thing about this shit was, because you put it in water and then basically you drink it and it absorbs into your system so fucking quick that you can get to a peak of your high in about like 4 minutes. Yeah. And then so if you just want to stay there, you can just keep re-upping. Oh, and wow. It taught that experience taught me that there can be too much of a good thing and you have to know, like, have to have restraint. Because again, going back to the cake eating thing, like I was like, I enjoy this so fucking much and I'm enjoying the experiences I'm having, you know, going out and listening to music and feeling the music. I remember that's where like classic drug song, listening to the Verve Bittersweet Symphony and just being like, oh my God, this feels good. This is a good feeling song. And, you know, connecting more with my dog that I had at the time. Like it was one of the like terrible off leash, but we went outside for a walk and she didn't leave my side. She stuck with me and I was like, she knows. Like we're bonded forever. Like we're homies. Like she knows that I can't deal with her running away. Yeah. And it was just like one of those things where like, you know, the bond between, you know, humans and animals and so forth is deeper than I think we tend to think it actually is, and things like that. You know, thinking about all these things. But then I just realized at a certain point, I was like, I can't live in this state forever. Like at some point I have to stop. Yeah. And I chose to stop before everyone else. But it was interesting because everyone's like, you don't want to keep going? I was like, no, like I have to come down from this at some point.
I've had enough frosting.
Yeah. I need to be done. I like have shit I have to do tomorrow. Like, and I can't be all jittery or whatever. Like I can't, like, we got to be done. And it was just kind of really weird. And I remember thinking at the time I was dating someone before my wife, and I had chose that experience taught me that I had someone who I really liked, but I was dating someone who lived like 5 minutes from me and I never fucking saw and never made time for me. And my now wife drove across town to come see me on a random like Thursday to hang out. Yeah. And I was like, that relationship's done. I need to go see where this one's going to go.
For sure.
And it's funny. Like I tell my wife that all the time. I'm like, you realize like a drug trip is what made me realize I needed to like ditch this year plus relationship and see what was between you and me. Yeah. And I love that. Yeah. And then like I want that for other people. And like, so when I say, and we talk about different stuff on this show, it's not to be like, yeah, do drugs. It's no, explore you. Yeah. Get to know who you are, get to know more about yourself than maybe you even know or are willing to learn currently. Let it open up and see what it reveals to you.
I think it takes a certain age or a certain level of life and maturity for you to start doing things that are for the benefit of you instead of because someone else is doing it or because someone else recommends it. And obviously as much as he's probably canceled to an extent, I love Joe Rogan, and I mostly love that show. I don't really listen anymore because it's on Spotify, but he has very brilliant people on there. And one of the scientists that's on there that talks about psychedelics and shit, he has a new Netflix documentary that my mushroom one? That my parents are bringing up. My parents, who are, you know, everyone in California is becoming more in tune with the scientific shit behind psychedelics and whatever else, but even my parents were like, did you hear about this documentary? I'm like, yes, go fucking watch it. Cause like, if you're scared of your son explaining psychedelics to you, then go watch this fucking old scientist who's going to tell you how much love he's filled with every time he does it. And maybe that'll get through to you and then you'll want to do it. But yeah, again, I mean, do things for you, for whatever's going to benefit you. I definitely didn't do DMT because I thought I was going to fucking party and see shit. I wanted to fucking have, you know, a greater fucking more enhanced version of my life or more enhanced experience, and fucking why not? But again, I when I was a kid, I never dived into shit. I was a stoner. Other than that, my friends were doing acid, my friends were doing ecstasy, and my parents were far too strict for me to feel like I could do that shit. So I was always just like their driver or, you know, their buddy, their babysitter, whatever the fuck. But I definitely am stoked that I didn't dive into any shit like that until I was older, and I still haven't done a lot of shit. I'll probably never do acid. I've seen several friends have traumatic, life-ending acid trips, but I love being able to dabble in certain things. You can't dabble into acid. I think you actually can microdose acid.
You can microdose. Yep, that's how I did it.
I'm fucking good on that. Maybe I'd microdose. Okay, let me backtrack. I would microdose some acid depending on the circumstance, but I am in tune with my mind and how sensitive I am. I'm fucking, I've never really wanted to do things that took me here. I'll get to there if that's a thing, but I'm definitely in the more side of like, I'm not trying to party. I'm definitely trying to just heal my mind and become, you know, enter new places of enlightenment rather than, push the fucking cortisol and serotonin levels to the max.
100%. Yeah, it's funny. I feel very akin to Kevin Smith in the last couple of years because like he became a stoner in the last like 10 years. I'm still not there. I basically use it to go to sleep because I have terrible like sleeping patterns. Yeah. And it's one of those where I've even realized that the way my relationship with it is probably not the best because I'm like, usually it's like, okay, I get home from a bar or shift or whatever. I'm trying to go to bed so I can get up and hang out with my wife or whatever. So my thing is smoke, get as fucking high as possible to then go to bed really quickly.
Yep.
So recently I've started changing my relationship with it where it's like, I'll take like the pen to the bar. I'll take a hit and I'll just kind of hang. And then I'm finding like a new balance where it's like, I can be high sort of, but I'm not like smoked out of your fucking mind where you're just like,
yeah.
And yeah. I think it's funny, like, because a lot of people are like, oh, it's weird that you are almost like in the last 2 to 3 years is when you started smoking weed. And I was like, well, I mean, it just became legal first and foremost. So it's a lot easier now. Like I can literally just go down to the store and go get it. Yeah. Secondly, like, again, it's portable now. So you can do this. It's less harmful than lighting up a fucking bong and taking giant rips. Yeah. So it's like, I'd rather do that and have that be my thing. Plus, honestly, since I started smoking, my drinking has gone down exponentially.
For sure.
And I feel a lot better.
Hey, can I interrupt you? Can I pee real quick?
Yeah.
1 sec.
Yep. Excuse me. Excuse me again.
My bad, my man.
No, you're good.
Yeah, I used to smoke like crazy, and it was like a prerequisite if I was going anywhere. So,
is it because of your anxiousness, though? Was it a way to cope with doing, like, being normal and presentable to other people?
For a while, it was like, yeah, like it did get rid of certain anxieties, and like it for me, I felt like my best self like that, and it and until it started to be the opposite, to where it started just giving me anxiety, and it wasn't allowing me like to be present, and I was just in my head freaking the fuck out. So I just listened to myself and I stopped doing that shit. Simple as that. But I do miss it. I mean, I do miss it for what it was. But it now that I'm here and where I am mentally, it definitely I think it definitely took away. I was going to say, I think it definitely took away from being present, but maybe it also put me in the most fucking present place at times, and I was completely out of my head. But again, I just felt like at some point, like a lot of people I talk to, especially at my age or whatever, is that it just like sometimes it fucking starts turning on you and you can't necessarily keep up with it, which is totally fine. I mean, one time I was with the Day to Remember in LA, and we went to dinner, and then we went to a bar, and we were at the bar. I was like, oh shit, I haven't smoked. And they know me to be Mr. fucking Stony. I always have pens and shit on me. And I was like, oh, okay. I took a huge rip of a pen. And I was like, oh, fuck. Okay. That was a fucking rip. I try to give it to somebody else, whatever, and then all of a sudden, within 10 seconds, I was like, oh, I'm going to pass out. Like, I'm going to pass out no matter what. And I, like, sit down. I told my brother, hey, can you get me a water? And I was like, okay, the water ain't going to do it. I'm going to pass out. And I look, and I see the door is probably, I don't know, 40 yards away, 30 yards away. And I was like, fuck, okay. I know I just need to get outside and get some air, maybe, like, lay down or whatever. And I get up. And probably within 10, 20 feet, I completely started blacking out. And and this is kind of like traumatic for me. It's funny. I'm saying it in a funny way because it is what it is now. And I'm not doing that kind of shit anymore. But I fucking fully passed out on the way to going outside into a table of people, landed into this table of people. And I woke up outside with my eyes rolling in the back of my head, with my brother like slapping my face trying to wake me up, like fully passed the fuck out. And maybe that was like potentially the last straw of me smoking in public. Was, you know, that fucked me up. It made me feel like I died for like 3 or 4 days, and it made me feel just so drained and dead. And I was on the fucking SIA tour. I was working for Miguel, and I could not afford to be fucking dead. I'm waking up at 9 a.m., loading into an arena, doing arena shows every day. Like, I couldn't afford to fucking be as zombified as I was. So I think maybe that was my last, like, hardcore lesson of, like, you can't fucking smoke in public anymore, bro. And I've heard a ton of people it's happened to. Like, a friend of mine recently hit his pen, and he passed out on a train. Like started pouring sweat, and then he's just like, okay, I'm not gonna get up, but I'm just gonna like pass the fuck out right here. Like, weed's gnarly, like, especially
It is
these
now.
days. Yeah, especially these days, man, with these pens and shit. Like, it's not necessarily that. It's a combo of, like, you know, the weed these days is really fucking intense, at least in America, at these dispensaries, as well as, like, you don't know where your body's at that point, you know, like exhaustion, sleep patterns, food, blood sugar, hydration. That we can fucking take you down.
100%. It's wild. I've definitely smoked too much on occasion, but like I said, my thing is that's what the desired result is to not black out, but like be like, I'm really fucking tired, so I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
in that though, I realized it's the like best sleep I've gotten. I get like consistently, I sleep through. I don't wake up randomly in the middle of the night, and then I'm like, well, now I'm awake. When I was looking at getting a different job, I stopped smoking, and then I realized just how fucking asinine of a world we live in, where it's like, okay, I'm having problems sleeping. Melatonin pretty much doesn't do shit for me either. Like, I tried that, and it was like my drinking started going back up, where I'm like, cool, well, I had a drink because drinking is okay, and that won't be tested, so that sucks.
Yeah.
And I'm just like thinking about how dumb it is that it's like you can have people who are full-blown alcoholics drinking a fifth or whatever could kill someone literally because of doing it. But because I want to go home and hit this a couple of times so I can have like good 6, 7, 8 hours of sleep so I can be a normal functioning person in the morning, like, what the fuck's wrong with that? Like, it's so stupid. Like, this the stigma behind it, and that it's like it's 2022. There's dispensaries a million places, and here in Michigan it's like you can just recreationally go get it, but well, a job can tell you that it's legal and you'll get tested for it. You're like, that's dumb.
Yeah, it's I'm hoping in however many years it takes that it becomes I don't know if it'll ever become as normal as booze, because of the money being put into making sure that the booze industry stays where it is. Because I know a lot of people, if they fall in love with smoking, they kind of fall out of drinking as heavy, like you've said. You know, like maybe they'll have an IPA or they'll have like a really nice beer, but they won't have 6.
Nope.
And you feel a lot better when you're smoking instead of drinking. And again, we're not sitting here trying to tell everybody in the world to smoke weed and do your fucking thing, but as adults, this is who the fuck we are. And yeah, for me now, I'm more on the tip of like it has to have CBD in it, or it might exacerbate my anxiety. But I'm lucky enough to where literally 3 blocks from me, I'm probably gonna go today and get some CBD stuff, and it's just fucking there, you know, because it's not party time. This is what helps me sleep. or this is what helps me with this, and there's medicinal benefits, and I'm gonna go fucking shop because I'm an adult, and this is where we're at in California in 2022. But yeah, it is a trip to go from buying weed in some dude's car in a parking lot somewhere in high school to, you know, some young chick at the dispensary explaining me all these fucking products, and there's sodas and juices and syrups and candies, and it's fucking ridiculous. But yeah, again, I'm more on the medicinal side of everything these days, and I barely even drink anymore, and definitely just you're just growing as fucking humans, aren't we?
It's funny. I'll leave you with this because I got to get ready to go to work at the brewery here in a little bit.
Nice.
So I was in Buffalo for actually the Heartsick Christmas show a couple years ago. And we thought, because it was around the time where weed started being legal in places. So we're at this like little bodega by our B&B. And I'm like, yo, are they fucking selling gummies? So I was like, take a pack of those. And he's like, all right. And I remember we were going out to Niagara Falls. And it's like winter time. So I fucking pop one because my wife's driving. And then like we get there. I'm like, I don't really feel anything. She's like, take another one. And I was like, fuck it. Ate another one. And we're like walking around, and it's just crazy like to see something that you like see all the time in photos and shit, and just like you're there. And she was like, you feel anything? I was like, no, but my back feels really fucking good. And we went back to the B&B, and I looked at the package, and I was like, oh, these are CBDs. So I was like waiting for this effect to happen, and surprisingly, it wasn't even like I was kind of surprised that I didn't have like that shit. What is it called? The placebo effect. I'm surprised I didn't like manifest something in my own brain. But it was funny that I was like, oh, my fucking body feels really good though. Like my back doesn't hurt. Like my knees aren't kind of whatever. My ankles aren't like bothering me, and it's cold, so usually they do when that is the case. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, but it's kind of funny, but. It was kind of weird because when we went that last Heartsick Christmas show, we went back to Niagara, and I had completely forgotten until my wife was like, "What the fuck is that in the river?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, some lady drove her car into the river, and it was 5 feet from being over the cliff." And like I was like, I forgot about that. She was like, how the fuck do you forget a car is like some lady drove her shit into the fucking thing? And I go, I don't know. I just literally forgot. Like, I mean, we were in Michigan yesterday, and now we're here. Like, I mean, I just didn't think much about it. Like, you're in one state, literally and metaphorically, like, and then you show up here, and you're just like, oh yeah, that's a thing.
Incredible.
Very much enjoyed chatting with you. I actually have tried DMing you so many times to come on the show, but I have become a large proponent of things will happen when they're supposed to. So I feel like
man, I'm sorry.
No, it's shit. I'm sure your DMs are like most people's with the blue check mark, where you just got tons and tons and tons. So it's just lost in the sauce. But
I mean, not to like toot my own horn. It's correct to an extent, I guess, but it's literally, hey man, how do you record your videos? Hey man, how do you record your videos? Hey, are you using a GoPro? Hey, how are you? So to tell everybody real quick, if you've lasted this long on the podcast, I use the Yamaha EAD10 and I use a GoPro. That's it. I've told everybody infinity times that's what I'm using. You can literally see it in all my videos. That's all I do. I use the speed metal setting. Have fun. Thanks.
But I very much appreciated this. This was a lot of fun, and it was kind of funny because like when I had Patrick from Ice Nine on a little while ago, we joked about how he was like, yeah, no one ever asked to talk to the drummer. They always want to talk to like the guitar player or the singer or whatever. And I was like, I kind of like to talk to people who don't get to do much press stuff because like I think they're the most interesting people because we don't know much about them.
Yeah, and I don't do an interview every day, so I'm probably less jaded from saying the same shit all the time, like certain interviewees are. But yeah, I even asked my manager, because he asked me yesterday or the day before about it, and I was like, "Are you sure? Like, is the band okay with this? Because like, why me?" And he's like, "Oh, he asked for you specifically." I'm like, "If the band's okay with that, yeah. I mean, I'll talk to whoever, whenever. But as long as they're okay with it, you know, whatever." But
yeah. No, I specifically asked for you, and that always is usually the reaction is everyone's like, "Really? Me? Why?" But I feel like having some mutual friends between the two of us, I've heard nothing but great things about you as a person. And that's why, honestly, I've been trying so hard to get you, because I'm like, you, like I said, kind of matching energies. I trust, like, Porter's like one of the nicest fucking people I know. Like, that dude is
one of my favorite
homie.
humans.
And, we somehow got to talking about you a while ago. And I was like, is he as nice and like as he seems? Like, because he's someone I want to have on the show, because I think we'd really have a good conversation. But I don't know, because I don't really know many people that, like, I know a ton of people that know him, but haven't asked them. And he was like, no, he's the best. Just reach out to him. And so, like I said, like, if like Porter's kind of my barometer, like there's certain people in the industry that I'm like, is this person good or no? And if they say yes, then I'm like, all right, then like I know that like I'll get along with you just fine.
I could never see Porter saying that person isn't a good person, but
no, he wouldn't say it like that. He would just be like,
yeah,
he's not my type of person, or he's not my kind of people. He'd still be nice and be like, I mean, he's nice. I'm not super friendly with that person or something like that. He's very diplomatic in the way that he says things like that.
Yeah, I don't have the energy I'll be like, nah, fuck that guy.
Yep, same.
No, I love Porter very, very, very fucking much. And I'm very lucky to have met him so early on in my career. And yeah, I fucking love those guys so much.
100%. Well, thank you for taking the time. Sadly, I won't be around in the area when you're here in Michigan, but potentially whenever you are around in this area, or if I somehow am wherever you are, we should link up and have a beer and smoke our joints or whatever.
Just sounds fucking good, man. Yeah, if you can make it to any of these shows, reach out and let's get you to come hang.
Sure, absolutely. Well, enjoy the rest of your day, and I will obviously tag you and do all that when this comes out.
Appreciate you, brother. Yeah, have a fucking great day at the brewery. Serve it up, spread some smiles, and yeah, I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, brother.
So that was my conversation with Tanner Wayne. Again, really want to thank him for taking the time to chat, to be so open and honest about a lot of what we talked about. I think that's the thing that's kind of interesting, and kind of, again, bringing up Porter. Porter has said something to me a while ago when we did one of our podcast episodes about how, I have this skill, and, it was the phrasing of how he said it. You have this skill to make people feel calm and at ease, and to be allowing to open up to you essentially as a stranger. And it's taken me a while to really understand that is a thing, because to me, I feel like we collectively all have the ability to communicate with anyone. But I do realize that there is something that not everyone has the ability to make people feel at ease when you're talking to them, to make people feel like they can talk and tell a stranger that they just met, 30, 40, 50 minutes, an hour ago, some really personal things that have happened to them in their life. And I find it interesting as I get older, and as I have been doing this show now coming up on 6 years, that it happens so often. Because I think because it happens so often, it almost has kind of lessened that effect to me, where I maybe that's why, because even before the show, that's sort of how my life has been, is getting people to tell me things. It was interesting. I did an interview for a job I have now at a brewery, and in the interview, the GM kept making the comment about how they had wanted to ask me about the podcast because they were intrigued by it. And the interesting thing was an hour and 20 minutes. We never really did a formal interview. It just kind of was a conversation that touched on these various things that he wanted to know for the sake of an interview. And at the end, he was like, "Man, I'm really bummed I never got to ask you about the podcast, but like I feel like we need to go like have a drink and just keep talking." And I was like, I mean, essentially, you just got a small version of what the podcast really is. And I'd made the comment to them, and I was like, I mean, at one point when I kind of explained to you that, I'm going to choose my wife and my marriage over a job, and that's essentially what made me leave the place I was at the time. And, in that, me telling you that, you then relayed to me that, you totally understand and respect that as someone who was married and lost your marriage due to choosing your career over your wife and over your, your marriage. And I was like, tell me another interview you've done where you admitted that. And he was like, I've never admitted that in an interview. And I don't really think I've said that really to many people. And I was like, that's what the podcast is. That's kind of the hook of the podcast. That's what makes podcasting interesting to me. That's when it's quote unquote working. When people don't have their walls up and are just willing to communicate and express real emotions in real time and talk about some heavy shit. And there was times, in my chat with Tanner where I wanted to press and ask some questions, kind of about his anxieties and all that kind of stuff. And I didn't really feel comfortable until the end where I was like, you keep saying that you feel bad because you couldn't adapt to LA. And to me, that was the common sentiment I kept thinking of is like, you shouldn't have to change. We shouldn't have to change who we are to make it somewhere. Wherever we end up should bring out the best in us. What already naturally exists in us as people. Grand Rapids has been that for me. Grand Rapids has been that for my wife. Some people, and I've had close friends who have lived here and been like, I can't live here. It's not for me. It's this. And I've told some people that have moved back home or moved back to different cities, and I go, because I've lived all over Michigan at this point in my life, in most, other than Detroit. I haven't lived in Detroit, but I've pretty much lived in every major city in Michigan at this point. And it has become this thing where I've said, I know what you mean because I felt that way when I lived here. I felt that way when I lived here. I felt that way when I lived here. I think sometimes we don't give credence to our location, our environment, and what it does to us in our own personal growth or stunting our growth as people. And it's something after talking with Tanner a couple of days ago as I'm recording this, it's something I've actually been thinking a lot more about. I work with a lot of younger people who are talking about like, I'm graduating college soon or whatever, and I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to go here, I want to do all these things. And they speak so matter-of-factly. And it's funny to almost in some instances have almost 20 years on some of these people and thinking about how I felt about the world, how I thought, if I just go here, this is what happens. And that's not always the case. And it's sometimes kind of interesting to look back and be like, youthful exuberance of where I think I know everything and all I got to do is just do this, and everything will just fall into place. That's not how life works. It's kind of the journey you go on of exploring yourself and finding yourself on the other end and finding out what you're made of and who you are and who you really are. And I think in all of that, that's where the good stuff is. That's where we find out so much more about the world and our lives and what it can be and what we want it to be. And for that, that's kind of as heady as I'll get. I'll start wrapping up this episode. If you would like to keep up with Tanner, it's real simple. You can find him at Tanner Wayne on Instagram. There is a Twitter page he has, but it doesn't look like it's been updated in a couple of years at all. Doesn't even look like he uses it. I could be completely wrong, but if you'd like to keep up with that, it's Tanner Wayne, but the A is with a 4. If you'd like to keep up with Inflames, you can find them on Facebook and Instagram at Inflames, and Twitter is at Inflames_SWE. And check out the band. They're on tour. We'll be touring pretty heavily here in the States, doing 2 fall runs. I thought I remember seeing something about them going into touring in the new year, but could have been a multitude of tours I've been seeing posted about. So either way, if the Inflames is around your area, please go see them. Tanner is great. The live show is great. A lot of hits. I think at times we can forget how many just great albums and songs that band has put out and that they're still continuing to put out great new material. So go support the guys in that band if you are able to. Speaking of support, if you would like to keep up with the podcast, follow us at Brewspeak Pod on all the socials. You can also support our sponsors. If you go over to rockabilia.com, use the code BRUTALLY at checkout. You'll take 10% off your total purchase order at the end there. I want to thank those guys and gals for all their support. The Bean Bastard, go to thebeanbastard.com, pick up some delicious coffee. If you're in the Buffalo, New York area, please go to the Brick and Mortar and support them. A great local business in the Buffalo, New York area. And last but not least, On Point Pomade. Use our code BSP15 at checkout. Take 15% off your total purchase order. Keep your beard and hair looking on point. Holiday season is right around the corner, so use all the codes, save some money, look good for those family photos and so forth. And for the Brutally Speaking podcast, I am John, and I will see you all next week, or whenever I decide to post the next episode, because I'm about to have a shitload of content real fast again, and I think I might go to 2 episodes a week for a little bit. With Alfonso from Heartsick, that was from a live stream I did literally last night as when I'm recording this. It already exists on Facebook and so forth, so if you haven't seen it, you'll get to hear the audio of it. It was a great chat, kind of about community, gatekeeping in the hardcore scene, and just a lot of things that we collectively had gone through in the last couple of days, and really proud of it. I think we touch on a lot of great things, and I'm excited for everyone to hear it if you didn't see it already. And until then, I'll talk to you all next time.